Peace. It's your brother. So I want to talk about poverty, how people benefit from poverty. You know what I'm saying? How those who have actually put poverty together use it to decimate inner cities, not only Syracuse, New York, but other inner cities. They benefit from that. You see what I'm saying? There is a whole plethora of elements that come along with poverty, and there's pieces that come along with poverty that they benefit from our poverty. In other words, the plight of so-called black people, so-called Latino people, so-called poor people, so-called white folks, poor white people, so on and so forth, living in particular environments where poverty is accumulated. We have to understand that, number one, I've always said it, poverty is by design. It's a design. Number two, in order for the design to work, it has to be maintained. The design has to be maintained in order for it to continue to work and for others to benefit from it. Now, inside of the poverty, inside of those communities that have poverty, they have location, they have locales set up. They have different types of stations set up where supposedly people who are impoverished may be able to go and receive resources and to receive aid and help and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Single mothers, you know, fathers coming home from prison, transitioning home from prison, being able to go through these locales and get training and learn, you know, how to better themselves and to move back into society as a productive member of society. Well, a lot of times those programs have good intentions, but what they say, good intentions is the roadway paved to hell, or whatever that is, because in that process, somebody is manipulating the process. You understand? And somebody who's manipulating the process usually looks like the people they are serving, because see, when you're dealing with poverty and when you're dealing with concentrated locales that are resources for poverty, 9 times out of 10, these concentrated locales are in the very impoverished locations that they're serving. And the people who are running these programs usually look like the very population that they're serving themselves. They're 1 foot away from poverty themselves, but they act as though that they're controlling and maintaining something as they pimp their own people. Now, people will say, man, you know, that's kind of harsh. That's kind of harsh what you're saying. But the reality is that we see the science behind it. Again, I'm going to say this again. Most of the programs, most of programming, most of these alternative situations that are used in inner cities, they're federally granted programs. These programs come from federal grants. These programs are given to a state or an inner city by a federal grant, right? The feds give money for particular types of programs. But what people don't understand, and what I gather and what others gather, is that the feds give money to these programs, but what these programs do, and what this fed money does, is it upkeeps and maintains the poverty as well as maintains the violence, because how it works is this. This is poverty pimping at its best. How it works is this. There is no way that we can change or alter the condition of violence. You understand what I'm saying? We can't bring a solution because we're not putting a solution in place, because the federal grant is a problem-based grant. So if you solve the problem, the grant stops. That means money stops coming in, funding stops coming in. That means programs shut down. That means people don't have jobs. Now, here's the situation. Everybody wants to work, right? But why do you want to work at the expense of the bloodshed of your own people? Why do you want to work at the expense of the death of your children? You understand what I'm saying? Because see, you got to remember, it's a federally protected program. It's granted through the feds. The money comes from the feds. So if you stop the gun shooting, if you stop the violence, the money stops. So what is it apt to do? What is it for those who are benefiting from the poverty? What's the best thing for them to do? To keep the issue alive, to keep the issue going. So sometimes you may see a person talking about they're for the community in one breath, but their actions show that they actually are manipulating a part of society, as well as still got 1 foot in the bloodshed and in the violence and in the gang banging that they say that they may no longer be a part of, or that they have rehabilitated from. They still have ties, and they still, you know, are tied into certain things. You see what I'm saying? And it's very well seen and it's very well stated. So the problem here is this: in order to deal with poverty pimping, we have to recognize and we have to expose those who are pimping. We have to expose these systems Because these systems benefit. What they do is they take somebody from the community, you know what I'm saying, and they put them in place. And when they put them in place, that person who's put in place maintains the gate. I said this before a couple years ago in one of my videos. It was called Kicking the Gate or something like that. They maintain the gate, but it's time that I have to talk about it again. I have to repeat myself again, because the same situation is happening, but it's accumulating at a even at a more terrific pace. You see what I'm saying? You have areas that are supposedly drug-free zones, that are supposedly gun-free zones, but when you go into those areas, it's drugs all around the area. It's guns being hidden outside the area. It's guns being hidden inside the area. And those people who are supposed to be, you know, running programs, you know what I'm saying, in raising the youth and helping the youth, are actually aiding and abetting them in the opposite way. They know and understand that it's drugs on the premises. They know and understand that it's guns on the premises, but they trying to be cool with the very people that they serving. See, even those people are going to turn on you eventually, because they're going to see how hypocritical you are. You stand up and you talk about cleaning up your community, but in the same breath, you letting them hide guns in the same area. This happens in many places. This happens in many inner cities. This is not just Syracuse. This happens all over the place. But the thing is that we have to expose the pimps, because the pimps do what? They manipulate the victims. You know what I'm saying? Everybody gets manipulated by the pimp, because the pimp has a good way of speaking. The pimp can maneuver himself in society and move amongst, you know, the so-called educated masses, because the pimp, this poverty pimp, in a sense, is an educated individual, has a background, went to school and so on and so forth, and has made their way through programming. You got to understand, this is about programming. Because a program creates a program mind. But what happens is that when the feds create programs, the federal government has standards for those programs in order for those programs to work. And not to work, because most of these programs are designed to fail because of what they're designed to do. There's no way that you will ever stop gun violence. It'll never stop. This country was founded on that. It was built on that. But what you can do is you can intervene. You know, you may be able to prevent certain situations from occurring. You may be able to intervene, but if you intervene, you have to intervene with something that's tangible that you can give back to these youth, so they can put these guns down in real time and give them something tangible. Don't give them hope or a false sense of hope and tell them, oh, I can do this for you, I can do that for you, but nothing happens. What you're actually doing is you're setting them up for the okie doke, for a statistic for the police, because a lot of these programs, a lot of these pimps, they work for law enforcement. They will set up their own for law enforcement. They will do that. You understand what I'm saying? To maintain that job, to keep that money coming in, to make it feel as though they are doing something great. But how can you do something great when you are aiding and abetting a slave system to patrol and to enslave your own people? You see what I'm saying? When the best thing to be doing is trying to uplift them and give them solution and sources. So the poverty pimps, you know what I'm saying? They're all over the place. Syracuse is full of them. Take a look at the community, take a look at the different programs, take a look at who's sitting in places, and take a look at what's not happening, and you'll see and understand for yourself. So we got to stop the poverty pimping, man. We got to stop it, because what it's going to do is it's going to backfire on those of you who are pimping, because those of you who you are pimping are going to get smart sooner or later and recognize that you're using them and you're manipulating them, and they're going to turn the tides on you. Stop the pimping.